evening and welcome into Oye Cinema Club. Tonight's film is Christopher Nolan's 2000 psychological thriller, Memento. It's the story of a man who loses his short-term memory, which leads down a lot of paths. And as we go through this film tonight, it's interesting to think of how this movie could have ended in a crazy different way. This movie was a movie that was like a cult classic at the time, or as time went on, where in colleges people were like, you got to check this out. When I was in college in the year 2000. And because it had like a non-linear style, it was pretty brand new. So tonight we're going to look in, and I have a couple hosts with me. We have El Dondino, Jason Eccles, Steve Dez, and Marina. So let's open up with some initial thoughts. Jason, what'd you think?
Me? So I originally saw this movie like on DVD, probably like in the early days of DVD, or maybe when it first, a while ago, let's say I seen it. I think maybe I was in college too, Chris, when I first seen this, I would say. And this is one of the rare movies. I could probably count on my hand how many times I've watched a movie, and as soon as it was over, I watched it again. And then, because I had the DVD, there was a feature on the DVD, or maybe an Easter egg, I forget. But there was an option on the DVD where you could then watch the movie forwards to backwards, like in the chronological order, in the way things happen. And I think maybe I watched... Huh?
I said, shut up. I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you got the DVD, that's an option. And if it's not an option on the DVD, there's an Easter egg to get to it. Like a little thing you got to punch in or whatever,
Right,
a little
right.
operation. And so then I watched the movie again, and I got maybe halfway through before I said, okay, I see what's going on here. Totally, a linear story if you recut the movie backwards to forward. So I will say that when I first saw this movie, I really did like it. It's very experimental. I guess you can consider it experimental. There's really nothing like it before it. But I will say this time watching it, within like the first maybe scene or two of the movie, I was thinking, holy crap, like this makes me think of Tenet. Like this is Tenet. This is what Christopher Nolan like eventually got to. So that was kind of cool to sort of see like how him and his brother's brain work, because they put these things together or whatever. And Christopher Nolan always does these very high-minded, high-concept films, and this is really no different. Like, just a lot of thinking and thought and pre-planning to go to sort of just make like an interesting movie experience. Now, I will say, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Watching this movie after probably nearly 20 years from the first time I've seen it, I gotta say that it feels like watching a magic trick when you already know how the magic trick is done. It's not quite as enjoyable knowing how the thing works, knowing how the instruments work. And that's fine, I guess, because the movie has its place, like in that world, like of cinema, where it's like sort of shocked the first time, and it makes it for a very interesting movie to like revisit, especially like in the days of DVD. Like in the days of DVD, this thing probably made more money on DVD than it ever did at the box office. I'm guessing, but
that's what I mean. It's like a cult classic in some way, right? Like I feel like
without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, without a doubt, this is a cult classic. What makes it maybe the one thing that doesn't qualify as a cult classic is that it actually was successful at the box office. Yeah. But this thing caught a whole nother life after theaters, for sure. It's a good movie. It's a well-made movie. I feel like if this movie was made today, an actor like Guy Pearce wouldn't get it. I feel like obviously Chris Nolan probably would have said, nah, man, this is a DiCaprio film or something. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that Chris Nolan was a new director is the reason, I won't say he gets stuck with Guy Pearce, but the reason, like, and Guy Pearce is a much bigger star when this came out as well. But I feel like today, if he made this movie, it would be way more expensive. It'd be way flashier, and it would be a top name actor. It'd be DiCaprio or Brad Pitt or somebody. But those are my first takes.
The writing would probably be crisper, also.
Yeah,
There are some moments,
He's
right?
definitely a better writer now than he was then. You're right.
All right, let's jump back into it. What do you think, Marina? What was your initial thoughts of this film?
I was really shocked I'd never heard of this song before, considering like thrillers are my favorite. um, I really, really liked it. Like I knew in the first couple of seconds that I was gonna love it, just because I love keeping up with like flashbacks and plots, needing to like really pay attention to the plots. I was a little taken off guard that it wasn't just flashbacks and present scenes. Like even the present scenes weren't in order. And I know Jason kind of touched on how you can watch it in order. That'd be interesting. I kind of want to find that because even though I'm really good at keeping up with things and I did a good job at doing it, it'd be kind of good to like watch it in order to see if I missed anything because I'm still I really couldn't relate to like the whole Natalie part that much, like kind of like her purpose in the movie. I have like a couple of thoughts, but I don't know. I just feel like maybe we could have known more about like her intentions and everything. But just like first impression was like, wow, this is gonna really mess with my mind. Like,
What do you think, Dino?
What do I think? I don't know what you're asking me for. So,
So Dino has bad Wi-Fi. I don't know what happened there.
someone knocked me out, kind of like in the movie. Um, Power dynamics. Uh, yeah. So the second time I've seen this movie, maybe third, but I don't remember. I Yeah, it was one of these crazy movies that at the time. So it's probably about I was still in Paraguay. So this movie came out in 2000. I left Paraguay in 2003. So it's about 20 years since I've seen it. And yeah, it was one of those like mind blowing. And I don't know, talking about it now, it almost makes me think of Magnolia from something that Jason said of how he felt about it watching now versus then. And that was kind of, I feel like, what we were thinking about Magnolia when we had reviewed that recently, in that it was just, lauded with so many, how great it is and all that. And in schools, they were kind of analyzing it. And now later, it's kind of been like, it's a little cheesy, or it's a little overdone, or it's a little overhyped. And I feel that this, from what I understood from what Jason said, might fall in that line where it's just no longer as maybe revered, or just times have evolved and it's just doesn't feel like such a crazy stretch of a movie from everything else. And like you said, Tenet, or even what's the one, Inside of the Mind, and changing the other Nolan film. Like it seems like they've taken so much from
Inception.
this idea,
Inception.
right? Because that's going into someone's mind and kind of shifting around what their reality is. And there's clearly that going on with Guy Pearce's character, that they started to fuck with him, right? I never saw it linearly, but after the second time, after today that I watched it, I was like, huh, it'll be interesting watching it. But I remembered like the majority spoilers, and I thought it was at the end, which I guess linearly it's at the end. But I was like, Joey Pants is gonna get it, and he's an asshole. And then I was like, oh shit, he got it, and that was quick. All right. So what else do I remember of the movie? I was like, that's the big thing I remembered. And that I recalled that everyone started to kind of messing with him. I didn't remember the story that he kept telling people about it. But then once the diabetes thing started going on, I was like, oh yeah, that's so. Um, and it landed way harder at the very end. Just the whole speech of like, "Can I make myself forget?" or whatever that was, to just kind of like his life crashing again, of like the realization, like, is Joey P telling the truth? If that's a picture of me happy because I killed the guy, if that's even real, right? Because at that point you got to question it, if it's even real. I should just forget everything. And yeah, because then it's like so many other questions, like, is his character still going around killing a bunch of John G's or whatever? Like, is he to this day going around murking people? So I don't know. It was I enjoyed it the first time. It was mind blowing. I was just like, what did I just watch? And probably missed a whole bunch. This time I caught way more, and it helped that I had already seen the movie once, because it started to little by little trickle in of what I remembered. And then I was like, Carrie Moss was it? And I had no idea. I don't remember it being her, because the first thing I thought of was like, is this a Matrix reunion, or was this filmed before the Matrix? And we have kind of, and oh my God, oh wow. So that was fun.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
dude, what you just said reminds me of Shutter Island, like that part where Leonardo DiCaprio has to make a choice about if he's going to remember the way the rest of his life was or
I
not.
haven't seen it. Spoilers! Spoilers! I haven't seen Shutter Island.
And then he got on a plane, and there was a boat, and they sunk the boat.
I got headphones on, so I'm still kind of hearing what you're saying. Okay. Anyway.
Now that I ruined a movie for Dino, what did you think?
Wait,
Steve?
who else was in the Matrix in this?
Carrie-Anne Moss. Carrie-Anne Moss is from the Matrix, and so is
Oh,
Joey
it's Joey Pants. Right,
Yeah,
right.
Joey Pants.
Never mind.
Cyrus.
Yes, yeah, I remember.
His name?
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder. I'm like, I missed a lot. I'm like, if it's a reunion.
Yeah, I was like, who was the reunion? Right, I got you now.
Steve, what are your thoughts? What was your initial impression?
So my initial impression is that just like the main character.
Oh man, your connection is busted.
Okay.
He was intrigued. He
Stop it, my guy.
I wish there were subtitles.
I'm about to take the power off of you, but because I have bad connection, that's the reason. So, just like the main character, it's very surprising that like I forgot like almost everything about this movie. This is my second time watching it, but the first time I watched it was such a long time ago, because I moved to LA in 2011. My first girlfriend in Los Angeles was in 2012. And that first girlfriend that I had in Los Angeles, this was her favorite movie. So
I thought you were gonna say my first girlfriend was in 2012, and I was like, oh, Steve, wait it.
No, my first girlfriend in LA. So this was her favorite movie, and I watched it. But honestly, I think I didn't digest. I don't know why I didn't remember like almost nothing about the plot of this movie. The only thing I remember was like the movie is in different parts, like it's not in chronological order, and there's some scenes in black and white and some in color. But besides that, I didn't remember nothing about this movie. And that the main
watch
character.
the movie, or did you watch the movie?
I watched the movie. Like I actually watched the movie. She made me watch the movie. And like I watched it, but I just didn't remember. I don't know. Maybe my English wasn't as good, So there's many times where like when I was learning English, that like I would watch certain movies or certain things, and I didn't understand fully like what the plot was about because of my language barrier. So that could have been maybe the reason why I didn't remember most of this movie. But now watching it, was it like, oh, even though it's like scattered, you still get the gist of everything. You don't necessarily need to watch it in chronological order to kind of get it. At least that what happened to me. And yeah, and I'm just surprised also that at least the main character, at least I don't remember seeing him in anything else. It's like he just reminds me of the guy from Narcos, like the first season or whatever. I don't, him as an actor is just like I haven't seen him in anything else. It's like he did this and that was it, or like maybe he did some indie films that I've never watched, or I don't know.
So he was in a
What?
movie off the top of my head. I remember he was in a movie called I think The Time Machine
The
or
Time
something like
Machine,
that
yeah. The Jules Verne
with
one.
Samantha Mamba, whatever her name was.
Mm.
She
And
was like a
Orlando
pop star.
Bloom. No,
He
not
was in
Orlando Bloom. Or
LA Confidential.
Orlando. Is it Orlando Jones?
No, it was what's his name? H.G. Wells, The Time Machine or whatever.
No, I know that. Who's the guy? Wasn't he on Mad TV? Orlando.
Orlando Jones.
Not or,
But what about?
huh? He's in the Time Machine.
Oh, was he in there too?
Yeah, he's in the very end when he's AI at the library at the very end of the movie.
Okay.
Anyway, point
Oh,
being,
right. No,
yeah,
yeah, you're right. He was the AI, right? Samantha Mumba. Oh my God. Yeah. Holy crap. I can't believe I remember her name.
I feel like he changed his look too, because I felt the same way, and then I started looking at his IMDb, and like I don't feel like he was ever like blonde again. Because I was like, I thought the same. I was like, what is this like rip off Brad Pitt? Like, who is this guy? And then I looked up.
Listen, he kind of just sort of faded into obscurity, and I want to tell you why I think that is. Also, he was the main villain in The Count of Monte Cristo
Yes.
with
yep.
Jim Caviezel.
Yeah.
But
He's like a
as I
poor
look at
man's
this-
Joaquin Phoenix.
You know what? Not even. I think what happened was with him, just because he's sort of like this nondescript sort of white blonde guy in Hollywood, I'm going to be honest, his acting is a little kind of bland. And he's not a character actor. So what generally happens is if you're an actor with like sort of nondescript, moderately handsome looks, if you're not doing something really special, you're going to fade to black. That's just the trajectory of, I think, any actor in Hollywood. If you don't have weird looks and like you're relying on like being like kind of good looking and you're just like an okay actor who's not doing really like out there stuff. This was out there. This probably kept him like ringing bells for like
This
a
was
few more
early
years.
for him, though. This was early for him.
I
Yeah.
think another factor into that point is that like every generation has like their token bland actor, no matter what the race. Like, but for his age, we had Brad Pitt. Because I mean, so don't Brad Pitt fans don't come get me. I don't really feel like he gets really that much in depth of like in anything. Like he just fits the token. These are real characters. There are real white men who are in heists. So we only need like 3 per race every generation that fit these like not super acting, but they're just really they're so much like the character because that's who they really are. And so maybe he just missed the cut of his time for that.
No, I think that the latter thing of what you said is 100% accurate. I think like basically every race sort of has those 3 guys in Hollywood, and they're sort of like your go-tos. But then there are the main.
Don Cheadle.
In the early
Cheadle's in some heist
2000s, Don
movies.
Cheadle for sure. In the early 2000s, he
The
sort of
same
had his
thing
coming out
happened.
party.
The same thing happened to Pootie Tang.
Okay.
But would you maybe then
I would
say
disagree
like?
with the. Huh?
I was just gonna say, what is it? Just his style of American accent that maybe pigeonholed him more? Maybe that he
It's
only
just
had
he
that
wasn't.
one American accent.
No, it wasn't the accent. It's just he's kind of bland. He's not doing. He's not a character actor, so he has to be the leading man. And just as time goes on, he's going to age out of certain roles. And so like when you get into like maybe your 50s or whatever, there's just not as many leading man roles unless you are a full blown movie star, a la, you know, the Brad
DiCaprio.
Pitt, the Tom
Yeah.
Cruise, the Keanu Reeves. If you're not like, so and there's a structure in Hollywood that sort of goes like this. I was always told that the best action role in Hollywood always goes to Tom Cruise first. And I heard this like 10, 15 years ago, but it's still kind of true. The first guy they go to is always Tom Cruise. Next is Brad Pitt or Will Smith. If one of those guys turn it down, it automatically goes to Keanu. And that's the pecking order.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leo.
But not action movies. Not action movies.
Oh,
DiCaprio.
That's true.
DiCaprio gets DiCaprio's in a league of his own.
Mhm.
DiCaprio gets the best script in Hollywood. Period. So every year, DiCaprio will get the top 10 written scripts in Hollywood, and he'll just pick the one he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what do you disagree
DiCaprio
on?
has no competition. He's not competing against anyone.
So did you
I
disagree
think
on the age thing that I was saying, that each generation?
No,
what was-
I agree with that.
People.
That I agree with. What the part that I disagree with was the Brad Pitt part. I don't think Brad Pitt's really gone anywhere. I think he's like a mainstay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't think he's like
But I
doing
he
think-
his
may have
best
been that
on
generational
women.
guy, but he kind of surpassed that idea. Like at one point we could have said like, yeah, he's a generational guy who disappeared. But the thing is, Brad Pitt kept getting better as an actor, so he never disappeared.
He evolved into Robert Redford.
Yes, he evolved. Yes, that's a great call. I think, yeah, I agree. He evolved into Robert Redford, but like maybe more. Well, I don't want to say more charismatic. Robert Redford. No, you're right. He's Robert Redford now for sure.
Because it has gone a little bit less, which what Robert Redford did in the end. Still plays that smooth, suave guy in a movie, no matter what his age, but less opportunity. And I guess that's a little bit to my point. Like you're not on every hot new thing anymore, just because that's the age out. But yeah, he definitely has he will forever be the suave. And I can imagine him when they start making more movies about like the older generations. As he get older, he'll be the suave guy that like takes your mom out on a date in the movie, and like that kind. What's the guy from the scary movie where they go to the hotel for the winter?
Jack Nicholson.
Yes, like that. Like he,
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was thinking Scary Movie the movie. So I'm like, what's the guy from Scary Movie? I was like,
Marlon
one of the
Wayans.
I appreciate you being able to decipher me. We need to go on a game show together, because that's how.
That's funny.
I like this movie because it sends us in really interesting places.
I know.
I was just thinking that. Like, we're like, is this our own Memento? Like, now we're talking about his acting career and that back.
So I feel like this movie, you can't even like it doesn't lend itself to like, what's your favorite scene? I feel like the whole time you're watching this movie, you're processing this movie. So like, you can't just be like sitting back on your couch. You have to be thinking about what's going on the whole time and trying to connect dots like the entire movie. So for me, it's definitely something where you're not watching this when you're really, really tired, unless you already saw it before. I have not seen this movie since the first time I saw it, back when Jason was talking. Like, it came out in 2000, so probably like 2001, 2002. Definitely watched it on a VHS. Had some vibes that reminded me of Fight Club. And then there's one scene in the movie where they show Leonard, and then all of a sudden, or no, they show Sammy Jenkins, and they flash Leonard's face there before someone steps by. And I was like, that is totally reminiscent of Fight Club when they start showing Brad Pitt early on. So for me, that like I was thinking, I had those vibes in some way, just because it's like it's kind of dark. The story's kind of dark. But I think this movie is one where, people talked about it and recommended it. And when they wanted to impress people when we were young, people were like, I watched Memento, you should check this out. And unfortunately, when I watched it this time, I kind of reverted back to that mindset. Like, and now I see it even more, that like, I get why people would be like, I like this movie, you should watch it because it's smart. And I think it is clever in a lot of ways, but I think this dude has made movies that are more, deeper than this. Like Inception is a whole different kind of world. But I definitely dug it. But I do think it's a difficult movie to be like, this is my favorite scene. Maybe you guys have a favorite scene. For me personally, there's no favorite scene. There's some good one-liners. Joey Pantoliano, or Liano, however you say his name. That guy kills it in a lot of things with some one-liners. But do you guys have like a favorite moment, favorite scene? I didn't have that.
Before anybody answers that, can I ask what was the budget of this film?
$9 million.
What?
That's it.
How much was the hotel charging for the location?
Well, it was at least 2 rooms. So
Yeah.
Also, it was 23 years ago, so inflation adjusted. There's some inflation there, but it's a relatively
Polaroids.
cheap movie from a relatively unknown director.
Polaroids weren't cheap, yo. That's where the budget went.
Also, you can tell this thing shot on film.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where probably most of the budget went.
Yeah.
There's not a great giant movie star in this thing, so I'm sure people weren't paid like handsomely for it.
But Guy Pearce was pretty big at the time because he had just been in that movie with L.A. Confidential with Russell Crowe, and that movie was up for Oscars and stuff. And I feel like that was his pinnacle movie. He was like not a bad guy. He was like the cop that you hated in that movie.
This movie was also up for a bunch of Oscars, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, was it?
I didn't know that.
I believe so. I remember it being around the awards. Let me look it up. Let me call you
I
a
feel
liar.
like in 2000, the big movie probably would have been something like Gladiator.
Yeah. And like I said, Fight Club was like the year before, so it's right in that same range. There was definitely a bunch of good but really expensive movies, right, Jay? Like Gladiator. Exactly. That had to be ridiculously expensive. That won, right? That was enough. That was Best Picture.
Yeah, but Gladiator, like, it also came out at a weird time. Like, Gladiator came out, I think, right before the summer or right during the summer. So it didn't get like that strong Oscar buzz. It just sort of like built up. It built itself into a thing. Because when Gladiator came out, just like this movie, Russell Crowe wasn't a major star, but he was also in L.A. Confidential.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a great movie.
Russell Crowe had, in Australia, he was starting to be known, if I'm not mistaken, because he had some, so at least it's not like he was unknown, I think, over here, but he kind of had a backlog. It was nominated for original screenplay and film editing, but didn't win anything.
Those are fair nominations.
Yeah, it was very original.
Yeah.
As far as like favorite, I feel like because everything was so connected, like I had like a favorite sequence more so than I had like a favorite scene. For me, it kind of tying the dots to it's kind of random, but like when he was in the car with Teddy, when Leonard was in the car with Teddy, and he's like saying, "Oh, did your grief get you this car and get you this suit?" And I was just like, "Wow, did he like kill his wife and like take the insurance money? He's buying all this stuff and he just forgot." But to find out that like how he got the car and how he got the clothes, I was like, okay, he's not a bad person. That he really got me. Like the little con artists in the movie, like I was tricked quite a few times with like until you found out why something had happened. Even like bruising on faces. It was just really cool when you got to the end of something that you were like, wonder how that happened, and you had to wait for multiple scenes to kind of figure that out.
Right on.
Do you guys think that Stephen Tobolowsky only got cast because of Groundhog Day, and it's just Ned.
Is that Sammy Jenkins?
Yeah,
I love that guy in everything.
And it's just that was so sad him telling that story, but I was just like, because he's such a there are a lot of actors in this that are really well known. Was Joey Pants probably the most recognizable? I mean,
He was in
Matrix came out
Sopranos.
in 90. Right, but he was doing that after. I'm saying before that, Joey Pants was already kind of in things.
Did
Yeah, Joey
That
Pants was already very much a character actor. This is
right,
1 year after Matrix, but he
right.
he was already in Sopranos for like 2 years when this came out.
was he was
I
also in
thought he came. Oh, sorry,
Sopranos
go
came
on.
out in '98. This came out in 2000.
You
Or no,
see, I'm
Sopranos came
thinking
out in
of Bad
'97.
Boys. I'm thinking of Bad Boys, which was 95 already. Him as a
Yep.
captain.
Yep.
Yeah, he's already a
I
pretty
just
well-known character actor at this point.
yeah, because I remember him from a bunch of things when I was younger than this. That he's got a very recognizable face, so I feel like he's probably the one that was at least probably most known when they got cast for this movie when it got done. Like I don't know how Carrie-Anne Moss, right? Like how much she did before the Matrix, right?
Well, who you cast as your villain is pretty important to
Mm.
making a good
Right.
story. You know, the villain has to be the villain's got to. So my personal, so I always say like the villain has to give the hero all types of problems to the point where you just don't even know how the hero can beat them. And that's sort of how I see a villain. The villain needs to be better than the hero, and the hero beats the villain by way of miracle. That's like the most dramatic version of any story to me. Like
gives me
David
there's
versus
no
Goliath.
it gives me anxiety, but that's very true because
Yeah.
you can't stop watching it. But
exactly.
I like that in movies. On TV shows, I kind of get overwhelmed if the villain is stronger than the hero for too long. I'm like, all right, let's defeat this guy. Like Walking Dead did that to me a lot. I'm like, all right, I'm tired of this villain. Let's get to the next situation. But in movies, if
Every,
it's done right, it's perfect.
Yeah.
everyone in the cast went on to do huge roles. Like you can say like, well, that's a TV. Whether it's CSI or the one that really threw me for a loop that I was like, is that? And I was like, Lieutenant Dangle? Thomas Lennon is in it. He plays the doctor. I was like, that's
Oh, yeah.
him in a serious role? Like, that can
He appears in a lot of
holy,
movies, though. He appears in a lot of
yeah,
serious movies, just like sometimes small parts. He's all over the place.
yeah.
Um, I
I
will
was
say,
wondering. I was like, why does he look familiar? Reno
yeah, man,
911.
you've seen him in so many things and probably don't even know it.
Yeah.
My favorite role of him, honestly, though, is with Zac Efron in 17 again.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
He
I
plays
don't
Zac
think I've
Efron's
seen
best
that.
friend in that movie, and he's terrific. He steals the movie, honestly.
Hmm.
So my favorite,
Never seen it.
I agree with Marina. I don't have a favorite scene. A la what Chris was saying as well. To have a favorite scene is kind of will be difficult in a movie like this. But I do have a favorite sequence, and it's something I didn't think about when I first saw this movie when I was younger. But now having more experience in life, the scene or the sequence when we first meet them, we don't even know that they've already slept together. And I was like, well, what does that do to someone knowing like this guy has just slept with you and he doesn't recognize you and you just walk past him? You could easily just like let him go if you don't ever want to speak to him again. But it's got to feel a little insulting. I also like how he says like, I don't mean like anything to offend you, but I just don't remember you, which is kind of funny if you think about the circumstance. But also it got me thinking like, well, dang man, like he's with this, they get together and then it's like what's psychologically happening knowing that you have feelings for this person but then you'll never remember having met them or having had that experience with them, and I just didn't recognize that when I was younger. I'm like, that's kind of like a sort of weird painful thing to explore, almost like Sunshine Spotless Mind or whatever,
Yeah.
or whatever,
But
that movie.
are you
Eternal
saying
Sunshine.
from his perspective or hers? Because she's
Both.
already kind of playing him. If you think about linearly, right?
Mhm.
Her boyfriend is Jimmy, the guy that he kills, and then he shows up and got his. So she's already playing him.
There's a bit of like double indemnity there, yeah, but you don't think she had any feelings for him?
I did
I
until the scene where I saw that she saw him in the car. So at first I
yeah.
was like, "Oh, she offended," because like she even asked him like, "Are you gonna remember me?" And he says no. I'm like, "Ooh, she's getting a little riled up." But I think maybe she fell for him too. But like in the moment, like
So she was playing him, you guys think?
I,
Yeah, to kill Joey Pants.
I do
She
think
wanted revenge. That's how I saw it. She wanted revenge and for Joey Pants to get killed.
I had
I
two thoughts, but I'll let you say
no,
yours.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was torn between something like, yeah, them having some type of money issues with Joey. At first, I thought Joey was her boyfriend. I thought Teddy was her boyfriend, but then I think she just wanted the money that was in the car. That's what I think. Like she knew Jimmy had money. I think she wanted that money. Because
Mm.
I don't know. I was really undecided on what I thought her role was, but I think because she said that she went to go talk to him and he beat her up, and he wants his money by tomorrow or else. And so and he's already dead. So I was just like, I think she knows he has the money. But I
And
never
then she let her getting beat up is Guy Pearce. That then she
Right.
uses it. Everyone starts like the motel dude uses him for more money. Joe Pants uses him for money transactions and killing people. And then Carrie-Anne Moss is like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna join on this shit too. Like, I want my money." And maybe she was in an abusive relationship with that drug dealing boyfriend, but uh, yeah.
Do you
So I
remember the
don't,
scene? Yeah. Do you remember the scene where she gets beat up?
yeah,
Well, clearly she was like provoking him so she could do what she did,
yeah.
right? Like that was premeditated. But at the same time, the wording that she used when she was picking on him was very similar to what her husband or boyfriend had said. It was a lot of the R word and like certain things that mirrored each other. And I was like, it feels
Yeah.
like they had talked about this before, the two of them, about him and viewed him in a certain way. And I think that they think of him as being like having a disability basically more than like an attraction. And I think that they probably had talked about how to use him. Like I definitely spent some time thinking about
Hmm.
what they were trying to do with that character.
Oh, you think Jimmy and
The girlfriend,
and
Carrie-Anne Moss.
and Carrie-Anne Moss, they knew Guy Pearce, Lenny,
Yeah, because when
Leonard.
Guy Pearce met him in the shack and the Jimmy guy and he had the $200,000 in the car, he did know him from before. And when he started beating him up, he was like, "You're the R word." He kept giving him all this shit, but it sounded like he had had some kind of interaction with him before that he wasn't,
Oh,
feeling.
yeah, because he said, "What are you doing here?" Not "Who are you?" So
Right,
that
right.
too, like, and then like he said he couldn't trust. I think he knew that Teddy's character was setting him up because he's like, I should never trust
yeah,
that guy. So he knew,
yeah.
yeah, I think he knew he was affiliated with him, and they were probably all they got greedy. They probably all wanted to like get something from him and then turned on each other.
You know what I like about Christopher Nolan is in his movies, I feel like he does like little subtle things that really support what he's trying to do. Like in the movie, like when Guy Pearce went up to open the hotel door, he pushed it instead of pulling it and then pulled it. And I was like, he forgot what to do. They're trying to tell me that he forgot what to do and he's tried this before and he would remember. Like they're trying to make you remember that he doesn't remember everything, and they do he does little subtle things. And I really like that about Christopher Nolan. I feel like he does that in other things too.
Yes.
Maybe. Now I'm thinking of probably one of my favorite transitions, just because it's so early on in the movie, and even watching it a second time, it's something I didn't like remember right away. Is the scene where we see him running and he's like, oh, he sees Jimmy, I think, and he's like, oh wait, and he's like, why am I chasing him? Why? And then they're like shooting. No, he's chasing. Like that to me, like happened earlier on in the film where it's finally kind of like clicking in what's going on with these transitions, right? Of just kind of like, oh wait, I'm the one being chased. And then, when we see that kind of rewind to that thing, it's like, yes. So I think that just because it's got some humor in it of like, doo-doo-doo, I'm chasing, getting shot at. No, I'm I'm the one being chased. So
I
think
lied. I thought I didn't have a favorite scene. That was my favorite scene, Dino. When he was chasing the guy, and then he was like, "Oh wait, he's chasing me." That was my favorite scene. Now that I think about it.
I would say my favorite scene was actually when you get the reveal of the tattoos. That's when I realized where half of the budget of the film actually went.
Hey-o.
If this was Christian
Well,
Bale, he'd have got the tattoos. Like he would have.
Yeah,
really,
I feel like they would have been if the budget went there, they should have looked a little better, guys.
And I think
Or more
it was
prison tattoo
handwriting.
style. He did have was anyone he did have a trunk full of money, but was anyone else thinking how this is we Jason brought up about it if it was done today, like who they were gonna cast or whatever. This movie doesn't really work today with like smartphones and everything else of just being able to take the picture and the video and stuff
record
like that.
yourself. Yeah.
Right. The Polaroid, like, I just felt like that was such a period of time. And it's not just like a little Polaroid, it's like the travel one with the thing and it flips open. Like, this movie is in that time period where it's right where technology is advancing. Like,
But
I don't know. I'm sure
if
there
you think about it, it's modern because he never did this to the picture.
he did do
In
it.
the beginning,
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
He was doing it. Yeah, but just a little bit. Well, because it was before Outkast came out with, shake it, shake it.
so do you
So, I
guys
mean,
know? Here's a little fun fact about Polaroid pictures: shaking it has no effect
I
whatsoever.
know.
Yeah.
And they had to come out after Outkast and be like, please don't shake the pictures. That is not what you need. That's actually worse for the picture development process. Don't shake the pictures. Don't
Polaroid
listen to
pictures are
Andres
kind of
Cisneros.
magic if you think about it, and they're super
I know.
fun. And I would actually like to maybe own a Polaroid camera just for the nostalgia of it. But I will tell you,
Oh, take a picture.
oh,
Take a
you have one?
picture.
Oh, very nice.
It's dead, so no pictures will be taken today.
Does that live there, or did you bring that?
Huh? Oh,
Does
for the
that
movie?
camera? Yeah, did you bring it for the
Oh,
movie?
oh yeah, I'm so prepared. No, it stays here. This is like my
Let's-
work desk.
I would also like $1 million, Marina.
Right.
I don't see it. I think it's under some things. Yeah. I'll let you know.
So let me ask you. That's a pretty good idea, Dino. Can this movie? What would this movie look like in today with a cell phone? How would it work?
I was just thinking about that. Like we got voice notes, we've got notes. Like, because at least the voice notes, you could like hear your own voice too. You could take pictures, you could take a video now. Like, it'd be interesting.
Because he said the difference between him and Jenkins was he had a process, right? Which was the notes and the tattoos and I guess the picture. So so if someone's like, Memento did it wrong because he got confused with his process, what would the process in today's day be? Is that what you're
He
kind
would
of saying, Jason?
He would post everything to Instagram so that it
Yeah,
just
I know,
lived
that's
there.
what I was
social
thinking.
media for sure. I agree with you.
I guess. I mean, yeah, something
Password.
like that.
Passwords.
There's
could be
like
an
an illegal. You can't put like pictures of guns and shit on his. But I mean, I guess maybe he could, but it would be
You would be worried that like it was a deep fake or someone had a mask that was you telling you, nowadays, man, with all the conspiracy theories on everything, you would start to, freak out and be like, did I record that or did somebody use AI to record
Oh,
that?
there's a movie for you right there. Somebody deep faking the mess out of you and you trying to like recover your name on the run. That's a whole thriller.
It was called The Net
flip,
with Sandra Bullock.
Oh,
yeah,
you're right.
nice. I think the flip in today's day and age would be a face recognition phone. So it would be a phone, like his phone would be lost, right? Because he can't remember like short term passwords that might be or whatever, and either stumbles on the dead body or whatever and looks at the phone and the phone opens because it's his face, and that's where he kind of maybe stumbles on the audio voice notes that he made for himself or little videos, with funny filters. Who knows? Like
Also,
killing someone and he's
also
got the
when,
cat filters.
also when he threw the dude's keys out, he would have just called an Uber after that.
Yeah,
I also thought that was random. I was like, why are you going like? Well, I mean, clearly they thought they were just so smart versus him being dumb memory. We can all play with his mind, but it's like follow the guy. Follow the guy that you just had kill someone else who clearly now you made mad because you just broke him, and then he threw your pictures. He threw your keys. He kept the pictures that you gave him as proof of what you did. So follow him. Which, before I guess any further, my question for everyone is: what did Joey Pants at the end, aka the beginning, was he actually telling the truth? Had it been only like a year and he killed the original rapist, or never killed the rapist? That's just the story, and he's just been using Guy Pearce now for a while to do all his like dirty work. So was Joey P telling the truth about that he was a cop and actually helped him track down the person that also helped rape and kill his wife? Oh no, they didn't kill the wife. Sorry, because the just
Insulin.
raped and yeah, raped
but was it
his
true?
wife. Or yeah, was that true? And
I
that it
know.
had been a year. Do we
I
believe Joey P?
I think it would have been interesting if they explored the concept of him having killed like 150 people as like a serial killer, but like somebody that was controlled, and then he finds it out and like that reveal. I feel like this movie could have had 100 different endings and a lot of them would have been satisfying. Like the ending of this movie is good. It wraps it up and like I get it, and it's got that little twist. And again, it reminds me a lot of another movie that came out a couple of years later. All the twists in it are very similar. I almost feel like the person that wrote it mirrored a lot, but I don't want to give away spoilers. But don't rewind. But to me, that's a huge thing. I think it had the opportunity to do a lot of things, and I actually feel like I have a few ideas that would take it in different directions that would have been interesting as well. Like the idea of someone using him as a weapon for a very, very long time.
So because those tattoos, not a single one was reddish around the lines. Even the one, when he peels it open, So I'm like, some of those, and you can tell some were kind of more jail type that are just like basically kind of what he was doing himself at times.
Pen.
And then the others, he was actually getting it out of place. So has it been a year? Has it been more than a year? And how many people has he murked?
Yeah, it's a good point about the red thing too, because early on, I actually noticed that the license plate one was red, and I was like, and I was like, yeah, maybe it's just the camera, but the fact that he probably just had done
Yeah.
that recently because of how it ends, yeah, it was the little things like you were saying with the push and pull. There was little clues here and there to kind of give you a timeline, but yeah, that it definitely had yeah, a lot of things I'm still like, I might need to watch it again because I'm just like, I don't know what to really believe. It could go either way if it's the lie or the truth for quite a few things.
I think
I
that's
was
like
shocked.
the novelty of this movie is that it's constructed in a way where you do want to watch it over again, like kind of fairly quickly. And I imagine, I mean, it's probably designed that way. This thing, I bet everybody became like pretty pretty much strong working actors and working production people after this movie. I'm sure this thing had Hollywood talking like nobody's business because like you got to see this thing. This is a cool original concept. Yeah, I'm sure everybody took all the meetings after this. Yeah, this is definitely a movie that's designed for multiple viewings. It's very intelligent in that way.
How much time do you think then, based on what you're saying, do you think Christopher Nolan had to sit down with people and like generate rules for Lenny and like how it works when someone is going through the processing in their mind, and like, you know, they had to come up with some rules that you couldn't break or else it would kill the story, right? I feel like.
I agree.
You know,
I bet when him and his brother was writing this thing, probably.
Also, real quick, do you think, or does anybody have an insight if this movie was actually shot in order?
I don't.
I'm willing to bet it was
Oh.
not. I'm willing to bet it wasn't, only because there's so many locations. I'm sure like everything at the hotel on that day, like him talking to the hotel clerk, probably all happened in 1 or 2 days.
The warehouse, like the warehouse scenes, there's a bunch of warehouse scenes.
Yeah. Usually when they film stuff, all the location stuff happens on that day. Or, you know, in a row in that, you know, because they don't locations like that.
Yeah, it would be, yeah, especially if it's not a set type of thing, then probably wouldn't be.
Yeah, like if it's not filmed at a studio, then yeah, this thing, whatever's
because
filmed.
you would do it all with the motel. The motel clerk would be, you know, you wouldn't be calling him back and back and back to go through the days. It would just be all at once.
And Christopher Nolan did not have the clout at that point to like push a studio to be like, no, my vision is we're gonna tape this in order. He didn't have that at that point. No. I feel like.
No,
like,
not for $9 million.
Money on him.
Yeah, he didn't have
$9 million.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice any? It's like you guys are speaking on like rules of how it's gonna go. Did you guys notice anything where like something kind of was off? Like he could have, like, did they slip up in the memory thing? I feel like I noticed a couple times where I'm like, he didn't remember. How did he say it? Now I'm on the spot. Like, what was it? Oh, when he shows up, and I just feel like he remembered like killing that guy too soon. Like when the other guy shows up and he's like, he's not the right guy. I don't know. I feel like the dialogue was kind of like too long for how long like his memory stays. And I had one other time, I should have written it down, where I was just like, how would you know that if you didn't remember, because it happened after the accident? Even like knowing about his condition, when you think about it, that technically.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought that many times, and I was like, you know what? I just got to go along with it if this thing's going to work in my brain. But I do think that a lot.
It's because of Jenkins. It's because there was the guy. And that's the thing, right? Joey Pants was like, that guy did exist, but he wasn't married, right? And that's why he also had it written. So every time he would look at it, he would it would trigger his memory of, but then he ended up combining that with his story of, you know, killing his wife with the over injecting diabetes.
Yeah.
Not injecting diabetes into her, but you know,
insulin. I feel like there were
diabetes.
Sorry, people with diabetes.
I don't remember what I was gonna say.
You already gave me diabetes today. Stop giving me more diabetes.
While you remember that, just because I am Desperate Housewives' hugest fan, I have to note that the person that played Sammy's wife, she is from Desperate Housewives. She's an antagonist in the show for a couple seasons.
The older version of his wife, or the younger, like Guy Pearce's wife?
No, wait, Sammy, the guy who had the condition as well.
The older guy, yes.
Yeah, the older guy. Oh, because his wife's also named Sammy? Is that? No, I
No,
can't
I just
remember.
mean that Guy Pearce is basically the guy that really had a wife that did all these
Yes,
things. I
yes,
didn't know if you meant
the
the
older
younger
couple,
version.
the fake couple.
Yeah.
She's on Desperate Housewives.
She is also in Phantom Thread.
And
She
also, I
played.
just want to make a point of this, because I said it. I didn't mean Guy Pearce is not a good actor or even a great actor. I think he's a fine, fine actor. I really do. I just, just to make I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I think he's good.
But for a character that you're going to be listening to his voice and internal monologue a lot, his voice can get annoying, man. At the beginning, I was like, I'm starting to get a headache from this
It's
dude's
a little
voice.
monotone.
It is.
Every
And
time he was doing the phone scene, I was like, all right, when we get back to the other people.
yeah.
Like
Really,
it was.
guys? I didn't find that.
He just
didn't
reminded
have
me
it.
of like the old school, like, oh yeah, we found the detective in the alley. Like those old movies, those old detective movies is like,
Oh, noir. Yeah, I mean that's a whole black and white noir throwback to like
yeah.
he trying
If he
to.
can't
He's
remember anything, how would he have a personality, really?
I mean,
because
going back to Jason's comment, I think honestly, thinking about the movie now, like the supporting characters make this movie.
yeah,
Agreed.
because he
Agreed.
has to
Big time.
play the straight man basically. He
Yes.
has to be. He's got to play it without giving any sort of one way or the other,
Yep.
and everyone else is the ones that you're trying to piece. And it's not until the very end where the good twist happens because so
And you're
that's
learning
actually
it with him because you don't know
yeah
nothing.
Dude, so how about the way that he layered the story like you were going through that experience? Like the reverse thing was kind of like having what is it, anterograde amnesia. Like the way the film was set up is kind of like you're experiencing what the confusion of what Guy Pearce is
right.
going through in the movie, right? Like that's got to be why they shot it that way. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, because is it okay? So there's the version where you can go back and watch it chronologically. Now, if you just show it chronologically to someone that hasn't seen it or doesn't know that the original version goes, backwards and kind of in out of sync, is it still going to be as good as a movie as it is?
That movie just ends with him killing Teddy, and there's no reveal in the way. Like we got a reveal in this, even though it was going backwards.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? That movie doesn't end well. I feel like, or with like
Right, because the movie would start with him killing Jimmy, right?
yeah.
Basically, and then dude telling him you have this condition or you already did this, and at that point we care even less for his character because we also just saw him kill someone. So why would we have any sort of empathy knowing that he killed the wrong person to begin with? So yeah.
I feel like if you asked Christopher Nolan what he was going for with this movie, it was to leave the audience confused a lot and then being like wowed. And I feel like you lose all of that when you reverse the story.
They're all psychopaths. I mean, what more of a psychopath is than fuck? I did what I did. He tricked me and I killed someone else. Now I'm gonna make it to where I forget what I just did, but I'm also setting up the guy because I'm gonna, eventually kill him. Like the whole idea of like, oh, there's so many John G. whatever, and then it comes to make you think, when did Carrie-Anne Moss, like, who did she know from the DMV, or how did she get that information of the cop to have the ID, right? Like, there's her story would be kind of interesting as well to get a little bit more of what she up to.
I feel
Am
like
I
the
the only
deception.
one?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Am I the only one who thinks that maybe like the cop did something? Like, I don't know. Like maybe because like the note, it's like Natalie, I've said it like 4 times on this thing. I do not understand fully what her purpose was. But just yeah, like her
I agree with that.
the photo said she will help you out of pity. And I'm curious, like if she really was gonna help him. I don't know. I really part of me feels like the cop was doing something and that's why it was never investigated, or or anything. But that's to say, I still think maybe the wife's dead and that Teddy was lying. But if she's not dead, then it's just like, yeah.
No. She did die, but because he killed her with the insulin.
Diabetes.
Well, I still think she's dead from the assault. I guess you could say.
Oh, okay.
She's lying.
What about Teddy
Also,
says that there's
if you're undercover, like, why would you look like he looks like straight like a cop?
right?
You got a cop
And he
mustache.
was coming right off the Bad Boys set, is what it was.
I feel
All
like
he
we
did
could
was
talk.
all he did was take off the little glasses leash, and he was like, "Okay, no one's gonna recognize me from the captain's role."
Also, The Fugitive too, right? He was in The Fugitive and
Yeah,
U.S.
he
Marshal.
was. Yeah,
U.S.
Yeah,
Marshal.
one of
I
the
love
marshals.
those movies. Oh man.
Doesn't in U.S. Marshal does he die? No, never mind. I think it's the other guy, the tall guy, or
That's
gets
in the
shot
first.
at least.
That's Fugitive.
Spoilers. No, I'm just kidding. That movie
Yeah,
came
sorry.
out in 1993. If you haven't watched it by now.
You should probably watch
But I feel
that
like we could
instead
talk
of watching that.
tomorrow, trying to think about how many different ways, like things that were happening underneath. Like it was good for that. Definitely.
So the license. Sorry, I'm just. It's all coming to me. He keeps talking about San Francisco. Are they in LA or are they in Nevada? Because the plates say Nevada, but they're in
He
LA,
I thought
right?
they
introduces
were in
himself as San
California.
Yeah, he says he's from San Francisco. My name's Leonard Shelby. I'm from San Francisco. Over and over, he says that.
The
Right, but
driver's
he's
license also says California.
right, but the license plate says Nevada in one. But I could have sworn it's in LA or southern somewhere.
So that's interesting. If that was
South
real,
of
that means the cop came from California too. So I
right.
don't know. Yeah.
The plot thickens.
I know.
Was it the?
Sorry.
Now I am interested almost more so than watching it linearly, which would be cool or whatever. I'd like to read the poem that Nolan's brother wrote because it's based on his poem. So that's what it said at the end. I don't know if you guys noticed that the
I was like,
script is
credits
based
off.
on yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Lame.
if you guys watched Westworld on HBO. It got nixed like before it ended, but Jonathan Nolan's like the brains behind that, and you get to see how that dude's brain works, which is very interesting as well. That's an interesting
Actually,
family.
it's based on a book, bruh.
Well, it was a previous movie. I know that, but just the way he took it was way different than the original intent of Westworld, the original movie.
Have you watched that? I went and watched that, the Yul Brynner one.
Yes, I watched it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
super
got a
campy,
lot of-
but Yul Brynner kills it.
Oh, yeah. And Arnold basically stole Terminator from Yul Brynner. He says it in, they were they wanted Arnold to be the good guy in Terminator 1, and he was like, actually, Terminator sounds cooler, and he was like, I just watched Yul Brynner be this robot killer in Westworld, and I thought they would be cool if you just go around not saying any lines and killing people.
Yeah,
That's my Arnold.
it's a great movie.
Anything else, El Profesor?
Yeah, I don't know. You guys want to head in the final thoughts?
Okay.
Let's do it. All right, why don't we start off with Steve while his connection's working?
Alrighty, final thoughts. Final thoughts. This movie is a movie that I think the more time goes by, the more this movie is not going to be remembered so well. And that's because, like, the comment that I said recently about, like, this movie was really made by the supporting character. I think that's the reason why this movie is not gonna stand, in my opinion, the test of time. Because, man, if they would have just casted just one person differently, and that's the main guy, I think this movie would have been dynamically different with the same story, but it's just like now, like really seeing what everybody share in their thoughts. Now I see why this guy's career didn't go extremely far. And again, it's not that he's a bad actor. It's just like for this specific role, you need nuances. You need like intriguing things to kind of hook you in. And like what hooked me in is just literally the supporting cast and the environment and trying to make a sense of it all. But the main guy didn't necessarily get me in particular. But in general, overall, it's a decent movie. Would I watch it again? Unless we're doing like I don't know, year in review or something. But by myself, I don't think I will watch this movie again. Would I recommend it to someone? Probably that ex-girlfriend of mine because she loves it still. And that's it. That's my final thought.
Thank you, Steve. All right, Marina, what are your final thoughts on the film?
So my final thoughts on the film, I definitely have like layered thoughts of different parts of it, like as far as like keeping me on my toes for a plot. I give it super kudos for that. Like for it to be so, I guess you could say outdated and not very modern to still be like, ooh, what's gonna happen? What's next? Like, why does he have that scar? Why does he do this? Like I needed closure constantly and I was very engaged. Like I wanted to know more. Um, as far as like it all coming together, I obviously have some unresolved thoughts. Like I'm just kind of I was left in like what that didn't really 100% make sense, but cool. And, I definitely take a couple points away from the movie from it for that because I get it. Sometimes there's cliffhangers, but there was just a couple storylines where I was just like, I don't know if that makes sense, but that might have been the point. If that was the point of the movie, then that was amazing. Because I was very confused in the end with a lot of things. Um, I definitely wish I had more closure on Natalie, and just like what she was doing and the importance with her. And I would still recommend it, like, to my people out there that love thrillers. I would still recommend it if they haven't seen it, and I'll probably watch it again just to see if I didn't miss anything, but probably wouldn't watch it after that. I just need to see if, like, was it me? But if it wasn't me, then I don't care to know anymore.
I feel like it's a good movie that has a bunch of flaws. I totally agree with what you just said. I really think that's how I view this movie at this point, watching it a second time. All right, Jason, what are your final thoughts?
Very cool. So I think at the end of the day, one of two things happens with this film in the long term. I think this thing either doesn't hold up at all, 20 years from now, and people just completely forget about it, or, maybe not completely forget about it because it's a Chris Nolan film, so it's always going to be in his catalog, and he's a very special filmmaker. But I think within his catalog, in 10 years, maybe even 20 years when he's done, I think this thing is just going to kind of be lost in the shuffle, even though it's probably the movie that really broke him out, which is kind of odd. And only because this movie is dated. It's dated in a very strange sort of like time capsule because, like someone mentioned earlier, is that this thing is just before. It's just like half a decade or so, 6-7 years before smartphones, and or even just phones with like cameras and video action on it. So like this thing is like it's just in a weird space and time, man, where it's like, all right, just if this movie's made just a few years later, you've got a cell phone that can take pictures. You know what I mean? And you can put notes on it, and you just have the device that your little computer in your pocket is so much more powerful 3 or 4 years after this movie's made. So I think like it's not like an old Hitchcock film where you're like, it's this is the 50s or 60s, and it's just kind of like you accept that everyone's making calls from the payphone or whatever. It's just kind of like in a weird space. Something occurred to me when Steve was talking, and it's the actor in this movie, Guy Pearce. If he was replaced by Christian Bale, this probably becomes a classic movie again, like for all time. Like that's the guy you need for this film. You need a Christian Bale, or even like a Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think would have fared well in this type of drama and this type of thriller. So, who would I recommend this thing to? I recommend this to people who love thrillers. I would recommend this to people who kind of want movies. What do they call them? Like mind benders or mind? They call them mind f's.
Yeah.
This kind of does a little bit of that, where you're going to have to stay on your toes while you watch this thing. It's not confusing necessarily, but you got to stay on your toes, and enough so where generally, I think most people who see it, they do want to see it a second time, because, like Marina said, you're going to want to see if you missed something, and you're going to want to like your brain is like Chris also said that your brain is processing the entire time you're watching this movie. Not in a way that's daunting, just in a way where you're like, oh yeah, because this thing is playing backwards, and you're like, oh okay, and then you're sort of remembering yourself, just like he's trying to remember. You're trying to remember how to put this thing forward again as you watch it. So as the scenes, almost like the cut scenes that go to black and white, kind of give you a minute to sort of process the information and then start over again, trying to put the thing together. Uh, I would recommend it to people who like thrillers, people who like mind f's, mind bender type movies, thoughtful movies, or just honestly, if you're a film cinephile, like many of us are on here, you sort of have to have seen this thing. I think because it's such a big part of like the language of filmmaking and film and Hollywood in general. Because this movie is it's a time capsule piece, honestly, even for just like what it made of Christopher Nolan's career and the films to come after it. You're going to understand, I think, why he makes a movie like Tenet or Inception or all the rest of his kind of weird, thoughtful films. Yeah, that's my final thought.
It has a unique structure. Like it's something you don't see in other films. So like
Yeah.
anytime that's an exploration, that's always fun.
Yes.
All right, Dino, bring us home.
Yeah, boy. And I feel like definitely this movie, if you're looking at Christopher Nolan's work, you got to put this one out. You got to look at this movie. Like anyone that's trying to, study Christopher Nolan movies, whether it's in film school or whatever, because this really is what put him out there. I mean, this really, again, we're looking at it. It might seem a little outdated. It's a time capsule in a very specific moment, and you this is what I feel like catapulted him even more, and allowed him to get his further gigs down the line because it's great if you think about it. Other than us kind of nitpicking, it is an entertaining movie. I think it's very well done, but yeah, it just doesn't hit as hard anymore. And again, I think all of us had seen this movie except for Marina, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I enjoyed the movie again. It could probably be another 20 years before I watch it again. Uh, Clearly, if it's at some, I don't know, film, New Beverly or somewhere, and it's on screen, and there might be a group of people going, I would definitely go just to see how that is. An audience can always change perspective, perception. So I would definitely maybe go check it out again if it's in some sort of situation like that. Who would I recommend this movie? I guess yeah, cinephiles, probably people that talking about Christopher Nolan. I mean, his new movie's coming out, so I'm sure I'd be like, well, maybe you should check out Memento. Do you like these actors? Then check it out. If not, I man, poor guy Pearce, man. I don't know what he did, but I had an issue with his hair being dyed, and I think that's just him trying to forget things. To be honest, I think that just shows the whole messed upness that he's kind of gotten through. At some point, the hair got dyed. I don't think that was dyed when he was still conscious of what was going on in his world. But That's just me. I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. I'd recommend it to JP because there's a whole lot of murking going
He
around,
would
and I
be
feel
so
like he would
pissed
have.
though, linear wise. He would hate the linear aspect. The fact that this
Really,
film,
I don't know, but there's murks. People get murked, and he loves the murks that happen in the movies. So that's what I'm guessing. I enjoyed it. It is trippy. I almost fell asleep, and I was like, ah, I'm gonna black out like he did, and I like rewind 10 seconds.
I will say one thing before we start wrapping it up. Is this movie made 40 million box office on a $9 million budget.
No, this
I don't know.
blew them up. I mean, I was also looking the DVD. It was a 2 DVD set, and it said it's difficult to reach the regular thing. You must answer several questions and solve a puzzle, and then forward, reverse, and chapter skip capabilities are disabled. So I don't know how you got through all that, Jason, but you're pretty smart. So I could. So what do you do in a streamer? How do you figure out like, okay, you're on HBO Max. You click play. Now you're on a Roku remote, so you gotta click the up remote, down remote, the
No,
Hulu
man,
button, the
you just got to get the DVD. That's it. It's the only way to watch it. I mean, there might
and
be an online version chronologically, but if
I'm
not, you're going to have to
sure,
get the
yeah.
DVD. You got to solve the puzzle. That's it. That's pretty cool that there's an Easter egg of solving the puzzle like he has to do in order to watch the movie in order. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty clever DVD.
Yeah.
All right.
I completely agree with my final thought is just one thing. It's that I completely agree with you. It makes sense where it was in the progression of Christopher Nolan as a director. And like, dude, for being an early film for him, it's pretty solid. Like if it's like a director's, a young director's career, it's pretty solid that way.
Yep.
But my final thought is, if you've never seen it before, he had a movie before this that I've seen. It's called The Following. And it's black and white also. It has like an interesting plot. It's way more independent. And it's definitely pretty solid. So if you've never seen it before, it's called The Following. All right. So, Jason, I feel like there's only one last thing to do. I don't know how we're going to do it.
Well,
Real
I'm going
quick,
to ask anyway. Huh?
before Jason jumps, you brought up the cell phone technology, and I was gonna say, yeah, this came out in 2000. So the technology of cell phones that we were really excited was the Matrix when he picks up the phone and it comes out, the little
yeah.
thing that the lip, and everybody was when I saw the Matrix, everyone was like, we need those cell phones. So we weren't even thinking about taking pictures with a cell phone. That was just like, I need the that comes out cool instead of having to flip it open.
The
Anyway,
phone slid open in the Matrix, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's little
Did that
and
ever become a thing?
oh yeah.
So there was a
People,
phone that slid open like that?
yeah. I
Like
I
the
remember.
QWERTY ones, the
Huh?
like the ones that had the keyboard under the QWERTY, they went down.
Yeah. That yeah.
Like a BlackBerry?
That you're thinking of a slightly different one. This is just like it had the regular keys, but it had almost like the little cover, the little phone thing just popped
Mm.
open. And I did see while you guys were talking, Carrie-Anne Moss basically got it after The Matrix, and then she recommended Joey Pants because I guess they had become friends from filming that, so she recommended him to be and get a chance to be in the movie. So yeah, you were gonna ask. We had our person was gonna appear, and I guess he's been having issues.
Well, we'll
Some
see.
ask
We'll see what
what.
happens in a moment here. But I'll go ahead and say, Steve, what do you got for us next week? Well, Steve is having technical difficulties right now, so I'll just pull up the movie that I chose.
Awesome.
I had considered giving you guys a choice, but I got to be honest. I decided to just
You're a
not.
tyrant. You're a tyrant. So you aren't gonna.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of
was like,
elections
I'm
happen.
gonna. Well, see, so our tournament ended. Our tournament ended this past week, and so my hands were a little bit tied. I had to pick a movie from who won the tournament, and the movie category that won the tournament was movies with a lot of bad words. So,
Damn.
so what I did was I went to a list of movies with the worst language, like by category. And you guys know I always pick a movie that I've never seen before. So one of the movies on the list that I've been meaning to watch for a really long time is End of Watch, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena.
Hmm.
Apparently, they used the F word 329 times in the movie. So got a lot of bad words in it. That's the movie. There it is. That's the movie that will be viewing for next week.
Do we have to curse the whole review?
Absolutely. Nonstop. Everybody's got to drop multiple F bombs.
Fun fact about me, I don't curse, so this will be an interesting
Well,
genre.
Shut the fuck up. I
It'll be a
don't
lot
know
of
if
fudge.
I believe
It'll be a
that.
lot of fudge and F from me over here.
yeah, you might want to watch it with
Okay.
headphones in there.
Yeah, no, I don't mind people cursing. I just don't. Yeah.
Or watch the TV version. I'll yeah, right.
They used to make fun of me in high school because I would learn like the whole Wayne song, but I wouldn't curse. And they'd be like,
Oh,
"You sound like
do you
the radio
still
version."
remember some of it? Can you drop us some lines of how you would do it at the club?
Oh my god! Can you imagine? Like, what's the song where he goes in like a milli, right? It's like, yeah, I'm not even gonna embarrass myself like that, but just imagine.
No one's watching to this point.
A quick question before we get out of here. Do you, when you did the bad words, did you bleep them out or did you just like pause and go over them?
How
All right,
they
I got
do,
one.
like, for
I
the
got one
radio.
to show you because it is a pause. It's like a love bet. I got a problem, and yeah, like I got problems. So I do like that.
To the straight radio edit.
Yeah, it's like I pause. I don't add like fake words.
All right.
Got
Well,
it.
that's it for us. We'll see you guys next week. For El Professor, Don Dino Spacini, Marina Hamilton, Steve Des TV. I'm Jason Eccles. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Ciao.